on the pulpit is your freedom. It's your only chance to make it clear. Just open the lockbox and come around.
What's up, guys? It's Saturday, July 24th, 2021, and welcome to a new edition of FritzCast. So this week, I have no guest. I have no guest this week. And that's fine, because I've had two great guests the past couple of weeks. I had Jacob Turner, which is a candidate out of Missouri. And I had Anthony Welty, who's on a grand tour of the United States in his Liberty wagon. So I implore you, if you missed those episodes, go back and indulge yourself. If you're watching, watch those episodes. If you're a listener, you can go back and listen to those episodes. It's your preference, your choice. Nobody's going to say you have to do it one way or another. But I do have some great guests lined up. In the coming weeks, Angela Mcardle is coming back on the show, running for Libertarian National Chair, which I think is going to spark a great conversation in comparison to our last conversation, which was in like December of last year. So much has changed. So many things have happened, including shenanigans within the National Libertarian Party. Plus, I had the opportunity to meet her in person, and which was a great experience in and of itself. But there's some other things to go off of with that as well. And then I have some potential interviews lined up. Like I had this Republican candidate reach out who's running in the California recall election, whom I think, just be a good shot in the dark to bring onto the show and have a conversation with, just because you can never, what good am I if I am just a libertarian echo chamber? What good am I if I am just another libertarian voice out there? You know how many libertarian podcasts there are? Literally, at one point, I think it was a prerequisite or a requirement to have a podcast of sorts. If you were a libertarian or claiming to be a libertarian, you could not be one if you did not podcast, have been on a podcast, or had a friend who podcasted. That's the way that it worked. I don't make the rules. That's just how it worked. But it's crazy. Crazy the amount of podcasts that there are. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it is like, I had to have a laugh because a lot of you on Twitter have been posting some hilarious memes about how libertarian podcasting is just one big circle jerk. And at times, yes, it does seem that way. In fact, I remember talking with Larry Sharp when I interviewed Larry Sharp about, he said, and I quote, our echo chamber is very, very bad. We talk to ourselves a lot, too much, in fact, and we need to broaden our horizons. I need to broaden my horizons. It happens. You get stuck in your own echo chamber of sorts. You keep hearing the same arguing points over and over again, the same viewpoints, the same expressions. I want to give a prime example. And I thought about playing these clips for the podcast, but I'm going to forego playing the clips. I implore you, I'm going to point you in the right direction to go watch these things on your own. Because I think it's important that you watch these things on your own. I can bring up a bunch of interesting things that I find and show it to you, yes. I can. But I'm one man. Just keep it in mind. I'm one man raising a near 2-year-old, trying to homestead and raise chickens, among other things. Which, I mean, I love my life now. I don't want there to be any... I don't want anybody to be out there thinking like, oh, this guy doesn't, this guy's doing too much with his life. It's not that I'm doing too much with my life. It is literally just, it's hectic and it's chaotic sometimes. And there's a lot to do. And sometimes, I could have pulled together clips for the podcast, but look, here's a video for you. Let's look at the chickies. You can't hear it, but look at them. These guys are a little over a month old now. One of them is a month and a week for sure. One of them's a week older than the rest of them. But these are the chickies. And the chickies with their omelet coop behind them in this nice little run that we ordered. Nice little run that we ordered off of Amazon. That is encapsulated with... encapsulated? Is that the word? I don't know if that's the word, but it's wrapped around with chicken wire, and it's got a nice little tarp over the top of it, and it's movable, and it's within an area of... we got this fencing from Omelet, too. It's like construction fencing that you would see, the orange construction fencing, except this is black. And it's easily movable as well, so that you can section off. And in our case, we're like, chickens are over here right now, and we're going to move their little run inside this little fenced-in area that we made every week to give them new area to roam around. And then when they're bigger, they'll be outside of this run thing that we bought off of Amazon in the greater fenced-off area of the yard, more free to roam. But these guys are too young. There's turkey vultures and big flying predators and things around here that they're just too young to keep out right now. At least they're still getting the idea of being outside and free to roam. But that's one of the things that we're doing right now, that my wife and I are doing. Really have to credit my wife for it, because this is a lot of this stuff is her passion. It's slowly becoming my passion. But she's the motivation behind this, and I think it's really cool. I thought she has a passion for it. I think it's really cool, if that makes sense. And I'm loving each step of it, and this is on my brain because I just had family over. My sister and her family from Arizona have been visiting over the past couple of weeks. This was her first time to come see the new place. I've showed her pictures, showed her videos and all that, but, it's that going and seeing experience it's the big difference. And something came to my mind because at my last house... it's not that we didn't want to have people come over, but we would have people come over. We would invite people very, very rarely or occasionally. But we hated doing that. We hated doing that because we hated the place that we lived in. Not because it sucked, not because it was a sucky place. Yes, yes, if you know the stories... Yes, I had a batshit insane neighbor who, if you don't think she's batshit insane, she has bras taped or glued onto her garage door. And if you don't believe me on that, if you think, oh, this dude's making it up, I'm looking to see if I'm logged in my Facebook. Oh, look, I am. Look at that. So I'm just going to pull up this picture from my buddy. Used to live, one of my coworkers used to live across the street from me. So he still lives there, and he periodically updates me on Crazy Lady and what's going on. Look, this is her garage door. There's bras. on her garage door. What? For what? What is going on there? I do not know what this is about. But it's what I used to deal with. Keyword, used to deal with. Don't deal with it anymore. Don't deal with it anymore. But it's what I used to deal with. And my God. But it wasn't a bad house. But when you have 4 dogs, 3 cats, you want to do things like homesteading and farming on a smaller scale. And you only had 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, and it was a little dinky rancher. You had no space. It was all enclosed. You hated it. Like inviting people over, inviting even 2 people over, which we would do a lot. We would invite our my buddy Jason, our Jay Sean. If you remember, if you're an OG podcast listener, to my older days before we had YouTube and all that jazz, and Jay Sean used to come over all the time with his, at the time, wife. He has since been divorced, and now he is engaged to, his new beau, who I haven't given you a nickname, Ashley. I'll have to give you a nickname. I'll have to think of some way to make it work. But he used to come over, a lot. Or we would have one friend, because we invited more than a handful of people, like 2 people at a time, that there was nothing to do. There was nowhere to sit. There was nowhere to put people. The yard, which seemed large, would become cramped up real quick as well. And that sucks. It sucks when you can't do that. And I just had no pride. Like we would come up with projects and ideas to try to spice the place up, make it better, but the limited space was the biggest hindrance on the face of the planet. And we ended up hating the place. And when you end up hating where you live, it's a drag on a lot of different aspects of your life, I think. In this case, I'm not all too happy with my work right now. Not this work. I mean, my professional work, which we don't really talk about. And if you're not happy with what you're doing on a professional level, I mean, there's things within that realm that you can't control, obviously. There's I don't loathe my job. There's just things about it right now that are eating away at me and have been for the last, year or so. When your job is like that, and then you go home and your house is doing the same thing, like you don't have any psyche recovery there. You know what I mean? There's nothing that is truly balancing out your joy. When the only joy that you're taking is the fact that that you're raising your daughter, and that is a distraction from the other things. That was the saving grace. But even then we were raising our daughter and thinking like, oh, we don't want to be, we're stuck here. Why are we stuck here? We're stuck here with our daughter. We can't provide the best life for her here because this isn't, you drum up stuff and it becomes, so sucky. We've only been here for 3 months and we've had multiple big gatherings here with friends and with family. And every time, like my sister Ann, when she came in today, and my wife told me this from the larger party we had a couple weeks ago, which was, family and friends just showing off the place. She's noted that, I take a lot of pride in doing, like, everybody wants to, oh, take me around, show me the house, give the grand tour. And she's like, you take a lot of pride in showing people the house. And it's because, like, this is where I live now, and I love where I live. And some things that, used to weigh down on me a couple months ago just don't anymore right now, because this aspect of our lives, which is really, really cool aspect of our lives, is so much better that the scales have tipped. And the scales have tipped in the favor for the better for my psyche. You know what I mean? Another example is since moving here, my TV time, like I used to waste, I don't even want to guesstimate how much time I would waste watching television, putting something on television, even if I wasn't paying attention to it, just having it as noise in the background, which lots of people I'm sure do. I barely turn my television on, and lots of times now when I'm turning the television on for a limited time during the days, a lot of times it's something for Emmy to have on, and a lot of times it's only if I need her to, okay, I need you to stay confined to this area for a little bit while mama works on this and daddy works on this, and gives my daughter some tried and true just Emmy time, play with her toys, watch a little movie, what have you. I don't watch television. I don't watch the news hardly at all on the level that I used to. And I think it's a good thing because now I'm walking around and I look at people as people instead of wondering, I wonder if that person, I don't look at people in a political sense as much as I did when I watched news media all the time. Now, does that mean that I'm not informed on the issues? Yes, I still do an awful lot of reading. I still do consume a lot of news media because, YouTube and the internet provide these things for free. I can tap into these things. Twitter provides news clips and commentaries left and right. I still get it. I probably get that stuff more because I can actually focus on it when I need to focus on it more than I ever have before. But I don't watch junk television anymore. And not saying that watching television is a bad thing. But if you do a lot of something, sometimes you need something to forcibly take you away from it before you realize how much of a negative toll it might have had on you. This was like me in video games before my daughter was born. Ever since my daughter was born, Fritz's video game log. Let me date this. Back in high school, when I should have been doing high school work, right? When I should have been focused on my classes and things like that, I never did homework at home. Never in high school. I did homework during our required reading time during high school because my school was weird. We had a required, right after our lunch break too, oddly enough, we had a required 20-minute reading period in which we would report to the next class. But that teacher was not allowed to teach until noon. So at 11:40, you go into the classroom and they're like, all right, everybody, it's reading time. Am I going to sit here and just read because you're telling me to, or am I going to pull out my homework and do that? I'm going to pull out my homework and do that. And in fact, I get in the homeroom in school a half hour early before school begins because the doors open a half hour early. Do you think I'm just going to sit there and socialize with the kids, or am I going to do the homework that I neglected to do the night before? Going to do the homework during homeroom, including up through the pledge and all that crap and the school announcements, because who cares about that? I'm going to do my homework. Why am I going to do my homework? Because you make me come to this institution 8 hours a day, and while you suck away 8 hours of my life, you still want me to commit to do 2 to 3 hours more of homework. That's why the American education system is screwed up, by the way. And all that was going on while my teachers were harping constantly, talking about how we needed to focus on the Delaware State testing program. We need to get high DSTP scores so that funding for the school does not get cut. My educational experience, that was my educational experience in high school. Believe it or not. So I almost lost focus of what my point was. That's also why I struggled in high school. But so I would go home at the end of high school, or at the end of, the school day, and I would play video games. Okay? My mom would not buy me systems like a PlayStation 2 or whatever. I remember I had money in savings. It was like my mom's way of saying, like, okay, well, you do have your savings money. If you really want it that bad, you can buy your video game thing. You won't have it in your savings anymore. She taught me economics. I bought my PlayStation 2. I bought SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, which was the premier wrestling game at the time. And I bought Madden and all these other video games. God of War, which is, it's not my favorite video game or anything. But that's what I did in high school. I would go to school during the day. I would come home. I would play video games pretty much exclusively for the rest of the evening, whether it was on my computer or on PlayStation or what have you. I would exclusively waste my time on video games. And then, for the little bit that I had a job towards the end of high school, the game remained the same. Go to school during the school day, come home, or go to work afterwards, come home around 8:30, 9 o'clock, game from 9 o'clock to like 1 o'clock in the morning, go to sleep, wake up at 5:30 a.m., 6 a.m., and do it all over again. That was my life exclusively for a while. And then, 2009, I meet my wife. We start dating and all that. We were playing video games together. But the tune didn't change. There was a lot of time where Fritz didn't grow up. I just played video games. Wasted my time on video games. And, yes, there was, podcasts and politics and other things that interest me, but a big bulk of it was I'm going to spend 3.5 hours playing video games. There was a time where I thought, like, there will never be a time in my life where I don't play video games. Video games are so trivial to me now. Like, let me tell you, I'll play a video game. When I play a video game now, I'll play something like Rocket League on my Nintendo Switch because I can pick it up, play a couple rounds, put it away. Doesn't matter. Or I'll play Animal Crossing because I can get in there, work on whatever I'm going to do, put it away. God of War, I still love God of War. Still play God of War a little bit longer subsequently because of the content. But I can't do what I used to do. I can't get on there and log into Battlefield and play really long 30, 45-minute session warfare rounds back to back to back, which is what I used to do. Used to do that and just put on podcasts, put on audiobooks, put on something else in the background because, I guess the video game wasn't enough for me. I don't know. But nowadays, video games are very, very light because I want to spend time with my daughter. I want to spend time with my wife. I want to spend time together doing things, whether it's around the house, whether it's raising the chickens. Awesomely, I just bought this child seat that attaches to your bike. I just bought this thing for my mountain bike because I want to go ride my bike. But a lot of times it seems like there's not time, especially when you work midnight to 8 in the morning, and then you sleep until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon or so. And then you get up and your wife's like, okay, well, I've had the kid all day. Can you give me a break? Can you give me something to do? And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out where can I squeeze in riding my bike? Well, find this little child seat that you can attach to the bike. Tried it out the other day when it came. Fits on the bike perfectly. Put kiddo in the seat. Took her around for a spin around the neighborhood for about 30 minutes in it. She loves it. She loves it. And there's 2 reasons for that. There was hey, this way I can go bike riding with her. It's something that we're bonding and doing, She's 2. She's almost 2, but she loves seeing trees and animals and other things going around. She loves feeling the wind, through her hair and all that, which is great. I think that those are great things. And but on top of that, I did have a little bit of a selfish reason for doing it, because if she loves it so much and she says, "Daddy, let's go on bike," then I'll feel guilty. I'll feel guilty if I don't. So I'll put her on the bike, and then that means my ass is getting a workout as well, because I'm doing it for my daughter, but I'm doing it to get my ass in shape, if that makes sense. But it's awesome. It's awesome. I'd love to go out for an hour every day and just put her on that seat and go, "Emmy, where you want to go? Let's bike somewhere." Even if it's just around the neighborhood 3 times, or if it's out and down these country back roads where cars are hardly driving back and forth, where you want to go? Let's go see what we can see, and just go for a ride. Put on a podcast or something on a Bluetooth speaker, or Disney songs for her, whatever. She can listen to podcasts too. It's fine. We listened to Glenn Beck today. She was good in the car. Not on the bike, but in the car. We had to go drive somewhere. But that's beside the point. TV viewing is down. Video gaming is down. Family time's up. Productivity is up. And this would not have happened at the old house. The old house would have just been, okay, let's look, what distraction can we immerse ourselves in today so that we're not focused on the things that we hate about this place. Great change of attitude. It's a great change of attitude. This all started, about 15 minutes ago with me talking about echo chambers. It's nice to break out of your echo chamber, though. And I'll tell you why. I think the highlight case is probably Rand Paul versus Dr. Fauci. Anytime these hearings happen, Rand Paul is going at Dr. Fauci. And you have 2 primary reactions to this every time it happens. You have the people who absolutely positively hate Rand Paul. And they'll say snarky, stupid comments like, "Now I get why his neighbor attacked him," which is horrific, by the way. I think it's a horrific line of thinking. But you have these people who are like, Rand Paul's a dick. Fuck him. That's what they say. And I'm not going to call them Fauciites, but they will staunchly defend Fauci in those instances. You then have the people who are absolutely 100% against Fauci, who will say, "Wow, Fauci can't handle pressure at all, becomes so defensive, XYZ. You see what you want to see. This is what happens when you build up your echo chambers so rigidly, so sternly, that when the video clip gets played, I can't play you a video clip and say, this is Rand Paul owning Dr. Fauci. Because maybe it's Rand Paul owning Dr. Fauci in my mind, but if you hate Rand Paul, it doesn't matter if everything Rand Paul said in the video was 100% verifiable truth or not. If you don't like Rand Paul, you don't like Rand Paul, and you will see what you want to see. You will see what you want to see. You will hear what you want to hear based on your perceptions already. And that's why I want to read this little Twitter thread from Eric Weinstein, because this was the latest in Fauci questioning, or in Rand Paul questioning Fauci. So Eric Weinstein said, reviewing this video and the reactions to it, I see two worlds, which I was just referring to. One in which the good Dr. Fauci with saintly patience has finally had it with a right-wing populist and borderline nutcase Senator Rand Paul. The other is the world in which Dr. Rand Paul confronts naked Emperor Fauci Excuse me. This is more Eric Weinstein now. Sorry, I had to pause. My read on this is different. Fauci is a system creature which entails responsibilities that may take him into biowarfare. I see him as saying, you're outside the system. This is some set of super complicated relationships I have to manage, and I act properly within that sphere. I hear Rand Paul saying, I don't bow down to the system you live within. I'm here to call it into question. Did NIH do something as psychotic as fund gain-of-function research in our strategic rival's Wuhan lab? I hear Fauci saying, this is part of a large strategy. You can't break it out. Then I hear Rand Paul saying, I'm a U.S. senator and medical doctor who doesn't believe in your system's grand strategy of funding gain-of-function through the CCP as part of 12D chest. Answer the effing question, doctor. Fauci says, I don't have to take this shit. We evaded this issue technically. Paul insinuates, you may have a lot of blood on your hands, doctor, as SARS-CoV-2 most likely came from the lab you and NIH funded. Then Fauci says, there are many things that would have to be true for that wild of an accusation to tie me and NIH to COVID-19, and you don't have them, fuck off. Essentially, Paul is outraged by the 12D chest official system and wants to break out one question. Fauci wants to protect that system, which probably believes that it's safer to be in bed with the CCP than to shut out. Fauci is playing dumb on gain-of-function research, and Rand is insinuating too much. In the end, the system creatures are correct that we need grand strategies that are at times counterintuitive. The populists are correct that many grand strategies are batshit crazy. Hence the two incompatible worldviews. I expect this thread to be popular with neither. Alas, I didn't read any of the thread beyond that. But the point goes to this. I've watched Fauci and Rand Paul go back and forth on this, and then I dug up a ton of clips of Fauci defending gain-of-function research, especially when they lifted it in 2017. It was under a ban for funding from the U.S. government for a while. I forget why. But that is a detail that doesn't really matter in this conversation. The detail that matters is that NIH and Fauci lifted, or the pause in funding was lifted in 2017. Fauci talks about it in the January 2018 NIAID conference, in which he tries to defend and downplay gain of function as a buzzword that the media would run away with. Furthermore, there's clips back from 2014 of Fauci talking about gain-of-function research. In this case, Rand Paul is focused on gain-of-function. Did the grant go to these people? Did the money get to these people? And was gain-of-function research being done? Fauci's dancing around it. I truly believe that. I truly believe that Fauci is, trying to steer this away from gain-of-function. I don't think Rand Paul did in his latest line of questioning kind of jump that gun and you're doing gain of function. Gain of function is bad. That means you're responsible for this pandemic because it's inevitably true. No. Yeah, and libertarians and people on the right who want to share Rand Paul in this exchange and be like, oh, Rand Paul is dragging Fauci. Pump the brakes. Just a little bit. Pump the brakes just a little bit. Because it's not all Rand Paul dragging Fauci. And it can't be all Rand Paul dragging Fauci. I think Eric Weinstein actually broke this down pretty perfectly, in which you see the extremes of politics. That plays into another angle that's been coming into play lately. The Biden administration, the media talking about how can we get more people to take the vaccine? The vaccine's effective. The vaccine's definitely proven to be effective. How can we get more people to take the vaccine? And you had Jen Psaki talking about how there could be community organizers knocking on people's doors to talk about this stuff, which in my mind was a scary thing to bring up. A scary thing to bring up that you're going to have people knocking on doors talking about something like my personal health choices, which, whether you like it or not, talking about taking a vaccine is my personal health choice. Now, when I say that, there's some caveats. See, the people who are against vaccine passports, which I am. I don't think anybody should have to walk around with papers or a sticker on their IDs or any other kind of sign signifying that you are verifiably vaccinated. I don't think that should be a thing. And mind you, ever since restrictions had lifted here in Delaware, there's no storefront or business that I've walked into where they have looked for such things. It's the honor system, which is what it is. At this point, this is where I'm at. I don't understand how people can talk about how the honor system's not good to run off of during these things because at this point you've either been vaccinated, been infected, and if you've been infected, then guess what? You have immunity against the virus, much as you would if you were vaccinated, especially when they're saying that the vaccines aren't, the primary focus of the vaccines aren't to prevent the infection at this point, but to lessen the effects of the virus. So, vaccinated and prior infected people, that's a big group of people at this point now. Almost so big that I think talking about people who are unvaccinated and uninfected have little impact on things like, do we have to have a massive lockdown again? Or do we have to police the amount of people that can go into a business? Or do we have to have mask mandates? Because if we have lots of vaccinated or prior infected people and a smaller group that aren't vaccinated, and maybe have not been infected. But we're still worried about these two groups intermingling and variants and infection rates still going off of the rails and stuff. Then at this point, then what works? Like nothing must work then. Voluntarily wearing a mask. If you voluntarily wear a mask, but not everybody's wearing a mask, then what good is your mask? If you're vaccinated, but you might intermingle with people who have not been vaccinated, and you're worried about what good is your vaccine? This is just me stopping and trying to look at this thing logically. All right, not politically. Now, it's hard to not make anything political because this stuff was made political, whether you like it or not. It was made political under Trump as president. Biden, Harris, the media, they all questioned the vaccine prior to Biden and Harris's election and inauguration. See, prior to, and this isn't me making stuff up, the clips are out there. You can dig them up. You can listen to them. It almost was a complete 180. While under Donald Trump's administration, let's not credit the presidency because it has very little to do with who the president is. But under Trump's presidency, steps were taken which fast-tracked these vaccines to a magnificent, unbelievable degree that they were made, manufactured, in some cases baseline tested, and then flooded to the masses. Warp speed. While that was nearing completion, you had Biden, Kamala Harris. You had them all standing up saying, like, I'm not sure I would take a vaccine under Trump. That Biden specifically said if the process was opened up, if the process was transparent and opened up to more experts. Kamala Harris was quoted saying, if Trump tells me to take it, I ain't taking it. But now all of a sudden, it's, why aren't you taking this vaccine? Why aren't you taking this vaccine? Why aren't you taking this vaccine? The same vaccines, by the way, which were developed under Trump, is the same as calling it the Trump vaccine. Not really. It's not that in that sense of politics, no, Trump did not make a vaccine. Okay. All right. But you get the picture. And mind you, while that was going on, do you think that extreme play gets anybody motivated? Like if you're sitting on the fence about getting the vaccine, you're like, I don't really, maybe I'm a younger person who is relatively healthy and maybe my doctor doesn't even recommend I get a flu shot because it doesn't really matter. If I'm that kind of a person, and I'm on the fence about getting the vaccine, but then here comes the guys that were saying that they wouldn't take it under Trump going, why aren't you taking this vaccine? You need to take this vaccine. If you don't take this vaccine, we're going to go back to lockdowns and mass mandates and all this stuff. How do you think I'm going to feel as somebody on the fence there? You think I'm going to go, oh, you know what? I'm totally going to rethink my position. Or do you think I'm going to double down and go, okay, well, originally I was on the fence about it, but now it's definitely a fuck no. What do you think? What do you think's going to happen? Because that's exactly what's happening. And I forget who gets on this. I forget who constantly talks about the vaccines right now on CNN. Dr. Leana Wen. Oh my goodness. Bring this up. Dr. Leana Wen. She constantly goes on the news. Constantly. And she's constantly talking about this stuff. Like this tweet right here. Stay unvaccinated if you want, but if you wish to be around others you could infect, you need to show proof of vaccination or test negative. So she's the type that's talking about vaccine passports and saying that it's an absolute must, in fact, to encourage more people to get vaccines. And if this isn't going to happen, that we need to go into extreme mandates, mask mandates, lockdown mandates, all that stuff. If anybody is doing more damage to potentially getting people vaccines, it's this lady. It is this Leanna Wen medical doctor. If there's anybody doing damage, it's every time she goes on CNN and talks about this subject. Because that's what happens. She gets up there and says, it either has to be this or it has to be that. And if it's not going to be this, then we need to do that. That does not go over well with the public. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. But it's just an inkling of what's going on right now. Just an inkling. But that being said, because I've been rambling for 45 minutes, which I'm very, very good at rambling. I'm going to give my voice a break. I'm going to give you guys a break because I danced through a dozen different subjects. And I'm going tubing tomorrow anyway, so I need to get this episode processed, get washed up, get some sleep in, and then go have a fun day tomorrow out on the river. So I'll leave it at this. Guys, thanks for listening this week. For real. Thanks for listening. If you're not subscribed to FritzCast, why aren't you subscribed to FritzCast? I don't understand. Why don't you love me? I don't get it. Subscribe. If you're watching right now on YouTube, there's a button down there with subscribe. There's a little bell next to it too, so you can get notifications when the new episodes go up. It's a very handy feature. Very great thing to have. All right. If you're listening on Apple, on Spotify, Google, whatever podcast platform you're on, I guarantee you there's a show page, and I guarantee you there's a subscribe button. If you subscribe to it, you'll get all the episodes when they come out. It's amazing. It's awesome. It's great. How does this devil technology work? I don't understand. You can do that, and then you can also, what's really helpful for this show is leaving a review. Okay? It doesn't have to be 5-star. Okay? I'll bargain with you here. You could say, you know what, Fritz, you're a 4-star kind of guy. All right? You're just 1 star off the mark. You can do that. But you can leave reviews. Leaving reviews is great, especially if you're leaving worded reviews, not just clicking stars and leaving it at that. That's a great thing. And the greatest thing that you can do, the biggest help that you can do, is sharing this stuff. Sharing this episode on your social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, MeWe, the stupid Donald Trump Getter platform. If you're on that, I don't know who's on that. I don't know who would waste their time on random, stupid third-party networks that get upstarted just off of some moronic bullshit. That's the only way I can put it. I'm tired. Give me a break. But you can share it on there too. Go ahead. Go ahead. Make my day. And you can follow me on Twitter at FritzQS, Facebook.com/TheFritzCast. The YouTube page, if you type in FritzCast, you will find the FritzCast podcast. Click it, subscribe to it, like it, love it. And you can reach me at fritzcastpodcast@gmail.com. Remember, I love you guys. Do some good this week. Break out of your echo chamber. And I'll see you next week.